And so we come together every fourth Friday of the month. We are here right now via Zoom from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So please continue to join us. For those of you who are regulars, we see you, we love you, we're glad you are here. For those of you who are new, we hope that you will continue to join us every fourth Friday. We are on Zoom, and so we do have some community guidelines. While we're on here, we would like for you all to stay muted at all times unless we are calling on you to answer a question or to engage in small group dialogue. And then please use speaker view or turn your video off if your connection is weak. And then submit all questions in the chat or raise your hand so that we can see you. And if you don't know how to use the raise hands feature, you should be able to click on reactions, and then there should be a feature there. And then by being here on Zoom, you are consenting to video and audio recording. So we are recording right now. And then this session is streaming and will be streaming live on Facebook on our Solidarity Twin Cities page. So this is the time where I say I love. This is call and response here. So I shouldn't be doing this on my own. So we have a chat that we do every new school. And it's when I say use my fist. When I say progress, you always say sure. Okay. So this is the time where I want you all to unmute. So please unmute yourselves.
Let's do this.
Okay, y'all ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So progress.
Sure.
Wait, almost. Let's try this again. One more time. Progress.
Sure.
Yes. Progress is always sure. Yes. And so we like to start off with our small group discussion before we actually have our speaker to share. And so in our smaller groups, the two questions that we will be answering is, what do you remember about swimming during your childhood? And then tell a story about your personal experience with swimming. So these are the two questions that we will be engaging with in our smaller groups. And we will also place them into the chat.
Okay, opening up the rooms right now. Smaller group, perhaps.
Okay, let's see. Stop sharing. Yes. So we are in a smaller group here.
There is room number 4. I'm just gonna move people to
Hello.
other groups.
I'm gonna make it bigger for you. So we can say hello. We can mute ourselves and say our names again. I know elders, I know some people, so please say your names and then we can go into the questions.
Shakita, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Can you hear me? The questions that you posted earlier did not seem to be the same ones that you said. So maybe, am I missing something?
No, it still should be.
Oh, the questions changed, maybe. Did you-
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave new questions. So the
Okay.
latest ones you got.
The one you have is more current, and yeah. And then I just changed that on the
Okay, so I guess I'm just trying to see if maybe I can go to different rooms or something and
I can
make sure they know.
Was it in the chat? I wasn't paying attention to the.
So do you want how do you define culture and what comes to mind when you think about, no, you don't want those.
No.
So that's what you put in the chat, Shakita.
Oh, sorry about that. Let me get those.
So we need the new ones. And then,
So it's the one, okay, sorry about that.
Oh, I'm just seeing chats within Gia. I'm like, I don't see.
Yeah, I don't see the group chat either, but
I
I'm
don't
in
see the
every
group chat.
well, with the group chat is just your same chat. It's gonna be yours, whatever you had. You'll
Right,
see whatever you.
I didn't see anything that Shakita posted in the chat is what I
sent
mean.
that to her
She
personal-
put it, she
Oh,
sent it directly to
personal.
me.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see it. Okay.
Okay, let me. Yeah,
Wait,
someone
who's
was
that?
talking. And this is our.
Should we put, we gonna have other people coming in, we gotta put them in rooms.
Yep, I'm working on
Hi,
it.
Shanna. Well, we've got 2 people that can go
Yeah,
into a room.
Talking about swimming, like what has been your experience with swimming?
So we can hear Shakita, but she's not in this room. Is that? Okay.
So we're literally right next to each other. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Well, yeah, yeah,
What's going on?
that's over.
Taking
So
it-
Beverly needs to go into a room.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Beverly actually is assigned a room.
but
Room
she's not in it.
Yeah, Beverly, are you able to move into the room? You want me to send it again?
So others want.
Hi, Beverly.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining. Appreciate you being here.
Sure.
Are you able to go into the room, Beverly?
If you click on the 3 dots and click on breakout rooms, it might show you where you're supposed to be. Or you can just join any room. But, and so Ayana, we put you in room 2.
So should I go in there and I
Yeah.
just stay in that one room, right?
Yep, until we call you
Okay.
back. Mhm.
Okay. Now I gotta find it again.
I can move you to there.
Yeah.
room.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh, I see it. Breakout rooms.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going.
And Gia, if you want to go into a room, I can just chill here too and bring everybody back if you want to go into the conversation.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, all right, and then, all right, so
I'll
everybody
get
else is there.
people- I'll bring
Okay,
people
cool.
back. What time should
Yeah.
I bring them back? 6:40?
Maybe about, yeah, maybe 6:50, I guess. I don't know what, it depends.
6:50. Okay.
Okay. And I don't even know what we're supposed to be talking.
I think those are the most active.
I'll grab them.
Yeah, those should be the most.
trauma-informed, anxiety-sensitive, culturally competent, historically accurate experiences around water for Black people.
The updated ones. I think they are, yeah. For the pre.
You want to share your experience with swimming? All that?
I'm very interested in hearing this presentation tonight.
Okay, Elder, you can share about your experience with swimming.
Well, it departs from the usual story about African Americans in America. I learned to swim at about 6 years old. Born in Savannah, Georgia, in the real Olympic-sized pool. And my brother and I, and an unofficial mentor, we taught us to swim. That was my first sport, really, swimming. I didn't mean I was an Olympic style swimming, but I was pretty good at one time. And the last time I swam seriously was in Miami, Florida, where I went to Savannah. Serious swimming. Here, and maybe I live in St. Paul. Works on the street for me. I live in Bacon. I swam there and I tried to teach children how to swim. Very unsuccessful, except in the water. The boys just shy away from me. She did very well. She was young. I don't fit the, what is it, the stereotype. And most of my peers, I think that that's a question which should be raised, and thank God for Ayana to put it on the table. I think we learned something about ourselves. I think she's one to explode another stereotype about black people. Water. Well, why in the Olympics, where do you get black people swimming in the Olympics from Cuba? What's that about? Oh, from Canada, what's that? So this is not genetic, I don't think. So the white supremacy ideology, which is adopted by many black people, adopted white supremacy in light of this country. And we do too sometimes. So I think that's a powerful myth.
Yeah.
You don't swim, you don't like water. Also, some people swimming in creeks. And what's happening? His problem.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, I remember like when I was growing up being able, like loving water. And my family used to take trips to Wisconsin Dells. So I'm originally from Chicago. And so we'd go there and then we'd be able to swim in like the different water parks or indoor pools. And then I remember growing up too, we have the local park where they had the swimming pool there. And me and my sisters used to sneak and some more neighborhood kids would sneak into the swimming pool after hours and go swimming. And so, I'm gonna be honest, I can't swim. I always tell people I can swim underneath the water, but I cannot it's weird. And I cannot float. I don't know how to float either.
That's
But
because you have dense bones, they say. There's a myth about black people not being able to swim. At first, they don't have enough fat on their bodies.
interesting.
They have
And we want to hear out what came up for some of you who want to share out to the larger group about what you remember about swimming or what came up in your discussion. You can just unmute yourself too, because we're a small enough group today.
I'll share, I guess. Most of us kind of remember playing and being in water as kids. But I think we all kind of said that we didn't really swim and that we only stayed in water that we could stand up in mostly because we didn't really know how to, swim well. But it seemed like everybody got in some water and played around or something to some extent. We talked a little bit about floating, and some people said they can't float or they couldn't float. And then other people talked about how Nyla had she said there was a poem called Relax Daughter and the Water Will Carry You, which was really interesting, kind of metaphor, but it's like that thing of like, sometimes I'm happy when I can just float in the water, even though I'm not necessarily swimming, but I feel like if I can just relax, I can at least float. And so we kind of had different experiences like that. And then also most of us had not been swimming, after we were kids. We kind of stopped going in the water, and people aren't necessarily actively swimming. Except for me, I just recently started swimming because I never saw myself as a swimmer. So I basically just played in water and stayed where I could stand up. And that was pretty much where I could be safe. So that was our group sharing.
For sharing, Sister Angia. I did mention I couldn't float in my group as well. Any others want to share out your experiences with water or swimming? I know some people were sharing within our group about their experiences.
I was in a really good group. Please go ahead. Chi, go ahead.
Okay. I'll let you could do the synopsis of the group, but I'll share mine. So I told about like growing up, my mom, we used to do laundry at the river. And so like my siblings and I would like swim around with the clothes on to wash out the soap after she was done. That was like my earliest experience or memory with water and swimming.
And in addition to that, we had Yusuf, who is in our group, whose father was a part of an Egyptian competitive swim team.
Oh.
And Yusuf is here. Please tell your story too. It was very powerful.
Yeah, so my entire family is super competitive in swimming. My brother swam D1 at UMBC, and my dad swam with the Egyptian national team, and I swam competitively since like age 3 to age 14. Only and Gia did give me the come here. I'm very thankful for that. But yeah, I was one of a handful of people who are not white, let alone black, that were swimming, and like all the like weird attitudes that a lot of people had, and towards like black people who were swimming, were just like things that you'd experience a lot. You saw like the weird occasions that people would make, like that. People trying to say like, oh, black people just have higher bone densities and that's why they can't swim, instead of it being like, fear of swimming that's like developed culturally, and how like, like I was, thrown into the pool of 3, but like I know a lot of black people who start getting into a lot of black people start getting into it, and they're perfect, they're great. Like there's absolutely there's no such thing as a biological basis for black people not being able to swim. Yeah, that's my story.
Yes, thank you. Do some high fives, hand claps, not high fives, hand claps.
Yes.
Okay, and then we have time. Elder, do you want to share your experience that you shared out with the group about swimming?
I shared the experience of not swimming, but being, number one, afraid of the water, growing up in Mississippi. And so there were not lakes, 1,000 lakes like we have here, but the river water, was, there was lots of rivers and lots of pools and so forth. And that my brother, who's 5 years older than me, I remember that he threw me in one of these pools and stood back and laughed until he fell on his face, because of course I thought I was drowning. And in addition to him throwing me in the pool, I also just mentioned to them that I have this kind of historical trauma of having the Atlantic experience that we as Black people have had. So I continue to have anxiety, deep anxiety about swimming, but I'm getting over it because I'm going to the pool now, and I do dance aerobics in the water. And so I have less fear, but I still can't swim. So I'm looking forward to tonight.
I will mention that there were commonalities in the group I was in. We had 2 swim instructors. 3 of the 4 of us had parents and or siblings who were competitive. There was one that whose brother was a diver, one who was the father was a Coast Guard, and one who teaches water safety. Anyone in the group who wants to chime in, please do. I'm just trying to recollect what I heard. But I found it interesting that some of us could have easily been afraid of water, but there wasn't a fear per se of water. All four of us were attracted to it. But I think all of us, I can't remember about one, I think all of us were thrown in the water. I personally almost drowned, and I believe that traumatized me. I've taken swim lessons, many. Tomorrow, I mentioned that tomorrow I'm going to a saltwater pool, and I'm going to have an exercise class, water aerobics, but I'm interested in chatting with the leader and owner of the facility. It's a private facility here in Tucson where there's water, but it's not known as a state with water, ironically. But at any rate, I want to have a chat with her about, it's on my bucket list before I die. I want to learn to swim. I think I might be able to survive because I took a course where I had to tread water for a set time. I don't remember right now. I had to stay away from the sides. I had to be in deep water long enough to pass the course. And I did pass the course, by the way, but I can't say I'm a swimmer. I'm drawn to salt water in particular, even though I grew up on an island, and I was surrounded by lots of fresh water. I didn't remember until one of you mentioned fresh water that I actually used to be a lot in a local river where we did do the wash and swam. I don't remember swimming. I remember being in the water, but I have no recollection. And I think because my profession was related to counseling and psychology, that I was traumatized by almost drowning, or as someone, I think it was, yes, someone in our group mentioned, you do drown or I think I remember with deficit or without deficit. And please correct me. Please correct me.
That is correct. They don't have near drownings anymore. What it is everyone, if you have a water experience where you drowned or you feel that you nearly drowned, it's called a drowning with or without deficit.
Okay, thank you all for sharing these experiences, and I'm pretty sure Dr. Ayana will be able to provide some more insight into this topic. But I want to hand it to Sister Gia Lawrence Porter to introduce our speaker for today. And we also will start streaming live right now on Facebook. So.
Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to the new School of African American Thought. Wow, so this is a moment for me. The ability for me to be present tonight as a member of Solidarity Twin Cities with the honor of introducing my own daughter at the new School of African American Thought is a surreal opportunity for me. I will cherish this moment for years to come. Ayana is the pride and joy of her family, friends, and community, as well as a national circle of aquatics professionals and practitioners and scholars, some of whom are here in support tonight. Dr. Raku fully embodies the names chosen for her at birth by her parents. Ayana is a beautiful flower, and Nkenge means superior mind. And what we are witnessing tonight is a full circle moment, a life cultivated by design and lived on purpose. And I have been blessed to have a front row seat throughout this journey. So it is my honor to be able to introduce Dr. Ayanna Rakhu tonight. Ayana Raku is a human movement practitioner and aquatics professional. She has worked in the field of aquatics for over 20 years. After learning to swim at age 6 at the Blaisdell YMCA in South Minneapolis, she swam competitively until age 12 and then began her aquatic career in St. Louis as a lifeguard at age 16. Over the years, she has held various instructor, supervisor, coaching, and administrative roles in aquatic programs. Ayanna earned a Bachelor of Science in athletic training from McKendree University and a Master of Science in Kinesiology with an emphasis in sports psychology from the University of Minnesota. Dr. Raku completed her Ph.D. in Kinesiology this year at the University of Minnesota with an emphasis in behavioral aspects of physical activity. Her work and research focuses on increasing aquatic engagement among people of African descent by pioneering a culturally relevant swim curriculum and teaching methods that incorporate Afrocentric views of swimming. She resides in the Twin Cities with her husband, Kefra Raku, and her daughter, Maya Raku. Through the topic tonight of Black in Aquatics, reclaiming our space in the water, Dr. Raku will lead us on a journey of rediscovering our aquatic history, reassessing our disconnection, and reconciling our relationship with the water. And so in closing with my introduction, I would like to share a 1-minute brief video with you, and then the next voice you will hear will be that of Dr. Ayanna Rakhu.
.64% of African Americans do not know how to swim. I want to see that change. It's important to me. My dissertation is titled, Mother, May I Swim? The whole premise is that if we can get mothers to swim, we can get more children to swim. My mom has been a driving force. Her ability to see, I love to swim, and to do something about it early. For women particularly, is hair. So getting it wet and getting in chlorine is sometimes an issue. A lot of times it's fear, and these can be generational fears. I want Black people to be talking about swimming. Even the title, Mother, May I Swim, I'm hoping that it's intriguing. I'm hoping that you say, wait a minute, did my mom even swim? I appreciate the university for the culture, the love for the students, and the way they want to see us grow.
Hey, she's beating us.
Wow, my goodness. Thank you. Thank you, Mom, for that introduction. I'll be calling you Mom on this call, so it is what it is, Mama and Gia. First things first, I just want to give honor and thanks to the ancestors, to those who have come before me. I am so grateful for the ways that have been paved for me, to my ancestors, to my elders, to those who have given me so much wisdom and insight throughout my life, I give thanks. To my community, to the people who surround me and love on me every day. So my community, my friends, of course, my husband and daughter who have so graciously put up with me all these years and love on me so much. And to this new school family, thank you all for inviting me and having me here. I'm so excited to share this topic with you all. It seems like there's so much interest. I'm gonna kind of flow with this. I have a presentation set up, but it's some things have already come up that seems like there's some questions that need to be answered, some things that we might need to discuss. So I'm just going to flow with this. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. The introduction was really thorough, so I don't have much in the way of that. What I will say is that so we talked about, my mom talked a little bit about my beginning swimming around age 6. Can you all see that screen? I'm sorry, can you all see the screen? Somebody, there we go. We're good. Okay, yeah, so I started swimming around age 6, but I have early memories of being in Minneapolis, particularly at the Decontextualized, and having an affinity towards the lifeguards. So seeing these people sitting up on these stands, watching the water, I just felt like it was royalty. And there was something in me that had a connection to that position as a watcher of the water. And so I think for me, that was the earliest inkling where I felt, I now know this. I didn't know this then at 3, 4, and 5, but that where I felt a connection to my ancestors or my relationship to the water. And from there, I just, I wanted to swim. I love the water. My mom listened to me in that, put me into swim lessons, and I was able to continue on that journey of making swimming a part of my life. But what the part of the story I think is really interesting is that I didn't really have a love or know my love and relationship with the water until I was pregnant with my daughter. And during that time, after I had been away from the water for some time, so, working as a lifeguard, but not really swimming for my own joy, I felt called back to the water during that pregnancy. And so I swam almost daily, 3, 4 times, 5 times a week, up until 8 months of pregnancy. And during that time, I realized, one, there weren't many people I could call to go with me. So much of my community, my Black sisters, my other mothers in the community were not swimmers, or were not interested in that. So that gave me kind of raised a question mark. And then I had so much peace and joy, and I wondered if other Black women specifically were feeling this kind of peace and joy in the water. So at this time, I had started a Ph.D. program a few years prior to my pregnancy, and decided to terminate that Ph.D. program once I got pregnant with my daughter. Decided to focus on being a mother and raising her for some time. And so, but during that time, I was really able to rekindle my relationship with the water. And then once my daughter was able to go to kindergarten, I had this pocket of time, and I said, you know what I'm most interested in studying is Black people and water. And so I went back to school to get my PhD with the focus and the intention of doing something that I was passionate about instead of doing something that I was just interested in. So that's where kind of this line of work has come from. It really comes from my deep passion and love for the water, and also my love for my people. And what I believe is that water is directly tied to Black people's liberation. So I want to go ahead and get into this by starting with some of the history of Black people in aquatics. And I'm reminded of the quote by Dr. Maya Angelou: if you don't know where you've come, you don't know where you're going. And so that quote really drove my early parts of my research with my literature review and kind of background research. And what I found is that in the mainstream research, there's a lot about Black people not being able to swim, a lot about drowning, a lot about us not having access. But I felt that there was something more to the history of Black people in aquatics. And like most things in the US, we start with slavery, and as if there was no time before that. So what I did end up finding is a book that, I'm not able to show my slides. A book that really kind of changed my life. This book is called The Undercurrents of Power. At the end of this presentation, I will drop a link in the chat, because this is something that I feel all of us need to read and need to share. This needs to be out here. So this is not the only book that informed me, but one of the best in regards to really displaying what aquatic culture was like across the African diaspora, particularly through the 14 to 1800s. So these beautiful pictures that you can hopefully see here are depictions of us as Black people and how we maneuvered through the water. So we were master fishers, divers, swimmers, boat makers, boaters, divers. So all of these things that require a maritime society, we had all the skills for that, right? So you can see, and I'll kind of use my mouse here, you can see in this picture here where this is about a 17th century picture, which would be today's Ghana. This family or group of people are diving for gold here, right underneath a waterfall. A lot of times these waterfall dives were 12 to 15 to 20 feet, where they were free diving to get gold, to gather pearls and other things of that nature. And so I want you to look at the way. Well, I'm going to show another picture and you'll be able to see it better, but the energy, right? This looks calm, this looks fun. It looks like they know what they're doing. Okay, so also I want you to see here at the bottom, what is right-hand corner, where you can see kind of the outstretched arm of the people swimming in the lake here. So this is off of Congo River in Senegal, and this would have been like a lake inhabitant. And what you're seeing is the beginnings of what we now call the freestyle, which a lot of people try to attribute to European folks as if they invented it, but African Americans and Africans were doing the freestyle way before anyone else was doing it. So you can kind of see that in the picture here. And then also you can see on top of these waves here, our prowess in the water in bringing these boats in, and kind of this collective teamwork. So I mean, the way that we were in the water was masterful. It was it's where we thrived, right? It's where our economics came from. A lot of times you had women as some of the best swimmers. Women would carry bags out maybe 10, 15 miles out to sea, out to boats to trade products. There were divers that would dive again 10, 15, 20 feet without any apparatus to get pearls and things like that. So this was our space. And it's so important that we know this story before we know transatlantic slave trade, before we know the trauma, all of these things. So this is where our ancestors were. Now, what happened, right? So we know that we have this history, right? We had this prowess, but we come to see right around the 1600s, probably a little bit earlier than the 1600s, where there's this dislocation. So now we're in the transatlantic slave trade. You can see the difference. What I want to point out was the difference between what's happening in this picture here, the first picture, where we're diving for pearls, yes, but as enslaved Africans. Okay, so under white guys. Whereas this, look at the difference here, right? So even that, I mean, there's so many, you guys have got to read the book. There's so many pictures, so many descriptions about what was really going on. But even in those pictures, you can see the difference here. So as we get to the 1600s and 1800s, we start to have this dislocation from our homeland. We're moving into, other lands, other parts of water, other types of water, where we have to learn again. So the water is not as warm as it was. All of these things are changing. And that starts a dislocation. Now, Africans were able to hold on to a lot of their maritime culture during that time. So even through the 1800s, throughout slavery, there was a lot of us that held on to that maritime culture and just revised it as needed. So we found ways to have sport, to bathe, to communicate, to even escape from slavery. So to use the water in the ways we needed it. But then we get to the end of the 1800s and early 1920s, which is where we start to, in the US, hear about our history with the water. But this is not where it started. However, this is where we start to see that disadvantage, where pools are being built now. So at this point, where Europeans were not swimming in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, they were not water people. They were not swimming, and actually looked to us to do a lot of that, and looked at us in awe. And so by the time you get to the 1900s, with the Olympics are coming around, and now the freestyle stroke is becoming more popular, and swimming becomes more of a pop culture thing, activity. And so in the 1920s through the 1940s, there's this huge boom of building pools on the East Coast, in the Midwest, particularly in St. Louis. So there are all these pools being built, but these pools are very different from the way that we as African people, as Black people, were used to being in the water, first of all. So, we are open water, rivers, lakes, and doing it very safely and doing it very well. So now these pools are these big, huge bathtub-like pools, thousands of people coming to one space, big grassy lawns, all of these things that makes it very much a leisure activity, a luxury activity. And we as Black people start to see ourselves being squeezed out for obviously racism during that time, Jim Crow era. So all of these reasons why we don't have access to water anymore. And this is happening not just with pools, but at beaches as well. So our access is, lack of access is causing that disadvantage. And so then once you get to the 1960s, you're seeing a lot more disengagement. Now, I will say, before we even say that we were disengaged as a group, there were pockets where, swim teams, Black swim teams were flourishing, communities where Black people were swimming. So let's not think that, all Black people stopped swimming and we just all disengaged. That's not the case. That is kind of the story that is often told, but that's not the case. However, as a majority, a lot of us began to disengage. And part of that is because the oral history that was being passed down, starting at the 1920s, early 1900s, was now that going to the water is no longer safe. We're being assaulted, we're being harassed, we're being harmed for just trying to access water. So elders begin to say things like, stay away from that water, or we don't do that. So that, and I'm going to put that onus on us. We talked about this a little bit in our group, that onus on us as Black people, that we have been a big part of perpetuating the idea that Black people don't swim. And I don't know that that's something that's often said, but and I'll talk about this a little bit more, but in my study, a lot of the women in the group said it was mostly Black people that they've heard say Black people don't swim. So that's something that, again, we have to deal with amongst ourselves. So right around the 1960s up until now, you see a lot of disengagement. So this is kind of the trajectory, the timeline of to the point where we're at, Black people don't swim. And so I love this by our brother Resma Menakem. He says, trauma decontextualized over time looks like culture. This speaks to us in our relationship with the water, because the trauma that we have experienced, as Mother Atum mentioned, is that, starting from the transatlantic slave trade, being brutalized, being, assaulted, attacked over trying to access water. So all of these traumas, on top of traumas in our own family, being thrown into the water, being laughed at, being ridiculed for not being able to swim. So all of these traumas have created a culture that looks like Black people don't swim. And it looks like 64% of African Americans have low or no swim skills. It looks like Black women swim less than any other cultural group. It looks like if you don't have one parent that swims, you're only 15% likely to learn to swim. It looks like us being 1% of competitive swimming. It also looks like us being only 8% of aquatic jobs. So this now is what our culture looks like, but it's not true to who we really are and what is a part of our history and what we can reclaim. And so in my study, it was really important that I wanted to focus on these two main issues, which is that the drowning disparities are high. So African Americans are drowning at a high rate, and we're also swimming less. So low participation, particularly among African American women and their children. And so with that being known, I really wanted to focus my study titled Mother May I Swim on the mothers of the community. And so it's Mother May I Swim, a grounded theory study of African American mothers on developing swim efficacy. So let's break that down just a bit. The reason why I chose to use grounded theory for this study, which is a qualitative research method, was to give a voice to Black women where there hasn't been one. So there's a lot of statistics out there. There's a lot of studies that have given us the things we know. 64% don't swim, you know, African Americans are 5 times more likely. So we have all these qualitative studies that have said, here's the problem or here's the case. But we haven't heard the voices of the people that say, this is why this is the case, and this is what we need to do about it. So that's kind of the gap that I wanted to fill in the literature and the research. And so I coined this term called swim efficacy, which is in part a play off of self-efficacy, Albert Bandura, the psychologist, self-efficacy, which is just a term around having confidence in an ability. And so swim efficacy is then very specific to swimming, and it's an individual's belief in their capacity to execute swim behaviors that are necessary to produce a specific performance outcome or navigate an aquatic situation. So ideally, this would be, you know, your highest level of swim efficacy would be that you feel as comfortable in the middle of the ocean as you do in a bathtub, right? The supreme confidence that water is water and my body in water, I am confident, right? And I know the behaviors I need to do, I understand how to move through this way of water, which is what our ancestors had. They had swim efficacy. So the purpose of my study was to construct then a theoretical framework that would help support this idea of swim efficacy. First, in African-American women, as we know in our culture, tend to be trendsetters, tend to be first teachers of children, you know, tend to be kind of culture creators. And so I wanted to focus on what can we do to get African-American women swimming? And then is this something that we can also use for the remainder of the population? So for my study, I had African-American women. It ended up being ages 29 to 60 in my study. They identified as a mother or primary caretaker of at least one child that was 12 or under. And they took a test to say, this is my current level of swimmability, so that I could put them into groups based on that, where there was comfortability. So people who felt like they swam well, middle of the road, and kind of no or low swim skills. And so I did that by doing focus groups and interviews to collect my data. And I had 40 participants in all, 12 focus groups over the course of the time period, and 9 of those individuals from the focus groups were interviewed, over 400 pages of transcripts. And so this just gives you an idea of, if you're not familiar with, you know, a grounded theory or qualitative work, it's like, how did you get any data out of these words? This is what I did to get the data out of the words. So I had a research question. I collected data from those interviews and focus groups. And I also took memos. So a lot of notes on, here's what they said, here's what I felt, you know, here's what I heard, all of these memos. And then I did a coding process that helped me to take all of that data and whittle it down to, here's the general of what they said, here's some specific details. This is becoming a theory, and refining the theory until there was a final theory that I did not create on my own. It was co-constructed with these people, which makes me feel really proud that these women in the study had a voice, and that voice is represented in the theory that is presented. So here's where we're going to have a little bit of interaction. I wanted to do polls, but didn't. And so I'd like for you all to type in the chat your response to some of these questions. So I'm going to first tell you what the group said, what I got from my study, and then I'd like you all to type in the chat your answer. So one of my research questions, and I had 4 that were sub-research questions, was how do African-American women interpret and define swimmer? Right, so first we hear this word swim, right, or swimmer. What does that mean when we as Black people hear that? And what do you think? You know, what are these ideas? So we had this conversation, and what came out of this was that people felt really comfortable saying, I can swim. They were more focused on my ability to swim. Saying I'm a swimmer felt like, oh no, that's not me. I don't do that. I don't know about I'm a swimmer, but I can swim. Right, so that was a huge dichotomy there, because the mainstream term is swimmer. Are you a swimmer? Well, I don't know about that, but I know I can swim. So I'm going to ask you all to say in the chat which that you identify with more, or if it's neither. So I identify with I can swim. I identify with I am a swimmer. or I identify with neither. And so if you can type that in the chat, I think it'll be interesting to see what you all say in regards to what they're saying. Now, unfortunately, I can't see the chat very well while I'm doing all the other things. So, oh, okay, I can see it from here. And so real quick, if somebody could pop in and say, who says I'm a swimmer, I think I'm gonna go ahead and call on Thaddeus because I can see yours right here. Give me an idea of why that was so important to you. Sorry, 1 second. Thaddeus, if you could chime in.
Say it again. What's the question?
Well, yeah, so why do you identify as a swimmer? What makes you say I am a swimmer rather than I can swim?
Swimming is something that feels integral to my identity, my life experience, who I am, what I do, how I experience life with others as well.
Yeah. Awesome. And what about someone who says, I can swim? What does that mean? What does that mean when you say I can swim? Anyone chime in?
I think it means I'm building confidence in swimming, and I have much more to learn.
Okay. And what about those that say neither? Does that mean I don't know how to swim currently? I'm not interested? What does neither mean?
It means I don't have the ability to swim. I would love to swim, but now at this point in my life, I'm not ready to jump in to do it now. But I was younger. My mom tried really, really hard to get me to swim, but I just wouldn't do it. My sister would though.
Interesting. I see, I can identify with neither, but I love to back float. And so isn't back float, is that swimming? Is that I can swim?
Oh, I don't think so. This is Nyla.
I don't think it is.
Because I identified with neither, but I can float, but the difference, they're kind of like, is no difference to me. Like I'm a swimmer, that is who I am, and I have that ability to do so. And what was the other one? And I am a swimmer and I can swim.
Yeah.
And I can swim. So I can't, neither of those are true. If I could swim, then I would be a swimmer. So
interesting.
And I've taken swim lessons 3 times and I'm still not. Yeah.
Understood.
I don't get into water more than 6 feet tall because I'm 5'9". So that's me.
And so you can see, even just from this short, conversation or poll, would you say, that there's all these different beliefs about what it means to swim. But in general, there is a desire to want to be able to do it. Whether we can do it or not, there's a desire to be able to do it. So I'm gonna speed up just a bit because I see we're running a little bit close on time. I have so much information I want to share. So another question I asked, and I won't do it out loud, but I would like you to answer in the chat. So I asked about how African-American mothers' experience with swimming influenced their own children's ability to swim or experience with swimming. And so what they said about their own childhood was that they were most influenced by their own parents and their peers, their surroundings, whereas many of their children are more influenced by the media. So whether or not their parents swim currently their children in this kind of 2022, it was more about, am I seeing Black people in the media? And do I think this is cool? Do my friends think this is cool? What is the media saying about swimming? And that was a huge influencer, even more than the parents. So I'd like to know for you all growing up, who was a major influencer or negator of your swimming? And I'll keep going while you all answer that in the chat. And so another question I asked was about their barriers to swimming, which we all kind of we talked about this a little bit. We talked about trauma being associated with swimming. Some people have talked about hair. So these were huge barriers that kind of across the board this is what they said. One was overcoming misconceptions. So just the idea that Black people swim, a lot of people have to overcome that. You know, oh, this is something we do? Okay, when do we do it? Where do we do it? How do we do it? Overcoming those misconceptions. We all know managing hair as Black people in general is a thing. So managing hair in swimming is still an issue. It continues to be an issue. And although it's not holding some people back, it is holding many of us back. Body image, so how I feel in a swimsuit or how I feel in swim attire, how I feel about my body in general, trauma associated with swimming, whether it be historical, intergenerational, personal, or vicarious, so someone near you had trauma. Access to bodies of water, where the heck do I go to even start swimming or to learn? And then costs, that swimming can be expensive. So these were huge barriers that people were feeling. I'd like to know in the chat, which one of these resonate with you most? So are any of these barriers for you? And if so, which one is it that is most a barrier? I'm gonna leave this up for just a second before I move to the next slide. Okay, and then lastly, I asked them, which was a huge part of what the model became, I asked them, what are the physical, psychological, and social resources we need as African-American women to develop swim efficacy? And what came out of that was surprising, but expected. I don't know, it's a weird thing. Like, I didn't expect it to come out in this way. So it was really interesting, but there were three things. One, the physical thing that we needed was cultural representation. We need to see other Black people doing this thing. Where are the Black people that are swimming? Where are we doing water aerobics? Where are we at, right? Where are my people? So that was a huge thing, and it was a physical, tangible thing. This is what I need. And psychological, I need to know that there's cultural relevance, which is around, you understand me, you understand, you get me, you know where I'm coming from. So I can't have a swim teacher or a swim coach who doesn't really get Black culture, who doesn't have relevant examples to give me, all of these things. So cultural relevance was huge. And then socialization. How do we make this a norm? Again, where do we do this? Where are we in the media? So this idea of socializing Black people and swimming was another need for African-American to even begin, African-American women to even begin to think like, yeah, this is something I want to do, or this is something I can do. Okay, so through all of that, I developed a model. My main question was, what is the process for developing swim efficacy? And I answered that through gathering all those themes, doing that process that I showed you all. And here's what came out of it. There were 5 main themes, and those themes are attached to a stage of this model. Now, this model is designed to develop curriculum. The whole idea behind this is that we develop a way as Black people to get back to the water, to reclaim our efficacy in the water, similar to what we had in those maritime years of the 1400s and 1800s, similar to that prowess, that we be that vast and that masterful in the water. So I'm hoping here that there's a curriculum that can come out of this. So I won't go through these exactly, but I will show you the model as it is. So this is how the model turned out. It is a cyclical model. So what I learned is that this process is never ending. It doesn't matter what level of swim you are at, because remember, I did this study with people of all levels. There is always room for you to do each of these stages, and it's a continual process. It can happen really quickly, or it can take years to go through. So I'll go through, each one has an affirmation assigned to it. So first things first, people felt that it was important that I reflect on what is my swim experience, which is why I had you all do that in the very beginning. What is my current relationship to the water? Did I swim as a child? Like, things that we don't really even think about. And then also, what is my historical perspective about swimming? So this reflect. And during this reflect time, the idea is to say, I release those past swim experiences. So as Mother Atum was saying about, having a connection to the transatlantic slave trade. And so how is it that we can reflect and then release those experiences? Second, then we're reconciling. Reconciling says, I want to swim. Okay, so as we just heard the lady, I think it was Terry, say, I don't swim, but I want to. That's that reconcile stage. That is the stage where you're saying, okay, I feel inspired. I feel the need to try something. And then we move into this reassess stage. That's, I will swim. Okay, I am now, making a declaration that I will do this. And reassess is where we look at the barriers. What are the things that are stopping me and what are the motivators? So why is it that, oh, I'm going on a trip, I want to get in this water this time, so I need to learn how to swim. What are the motivators? And then, oh, what am I going to do with my hair? Or what about a swimsuit that really fits me? Whatever the barrier may be. So we reassess those barriers and deal with them. Then we respond. So that means I went on the trip, I put my foot in the ocean, I did good. I responded to something. I got in the water, I tried something new. I went from snorkeling to scuba diving, whatever that may be. And then I reformed. And so reform is the change of the mind. It is now I swim, right? So forget I am a swimmer, forget I can swim. It is I swim. So it is just very personal and uplifting and powerful, empowering in the sense that it's a declaration that you begin to make. And it allows us to reform the way we think about swimming and what that means to us. So that was the base of the model. But remember, we talked about there needing to be this cultural context of relevance, socialization, and representation. So the final model looks like this. And it says that none of this work can be done without cultural context. So without our spaces to do this work in, it's very difficult as a collective unit for us to do this work, right? We need that cultural context. And then we can go through these stages and we can continue to go through them in that way. So I'm gonna go through real quick and give y'all some video examples. They'll be like 2 minutes and then we can go into our discussion. But so Miss T, who I believe is here, Miss Teresa Nix, was so gracious as to let me use some of her videos to show her going through this actual process. So the stages of the model, again, this model is called Swim Efficacy Reclamation, because that's exactly what we're doing. We're reclaiming what we once had. And so she's showing how she did this. 4 of those stages were done in 1 swim lesson. And so you'll get to see that here. I'm hoping that you all will be able to hear my videos. Uh-oh, I'm sorry. Give me a second. Were you able to hear that when it played? Anybody just chime in?
No.
Okay.
You might have to
Here we go.
reshare and share sound, possibly.
Okay. So stop share. Sharing. We're gonna get there. Hang tight. Nope. Hold on. Any help would be all share computer sound. Found it. Give me. Okay. So these videos are so good. Okay, the first stage is reflect, right? So it's as simple as this. And I want you to see how simple we go through these stages and how we already do a lot of it. Okay, here's the first.
I don't know how to float. I don't know how to really go underwater. Because my family was like, don't you get your hair wet.
Were you able to hear that?
Yep. Yes, we were.
Yes.
Okay,
so she talked real quickly there about, here's what I know about me, right? I don't do this, I don't float, I don't swim like that, okay? And also I couldn't get my hair wet as a kid, so we wasn't doing all that. Okay, so that's the reflection piece. Let's talk about where we're at. Then we take some time to reconcile. This is the part where we say, I want to swim. And so all of this is happening while we're getting ready to swim.
Yeah, it's like a rite of passage. To get your hair braided up in your cap. I'm trying to become the libation, you all. Be the one. Be the one.
Okay, so she admits it right there. I'm trying to be the water, right? Like this is I want to swim. I want this so badly. So that has to be there. There's got to be that desire that, okay, I'm going to push past what I've been through and we're going to make this happen. So then we reassess. And that happens where we expose the barriers and motivators. And this is usually around equipment, around like, what the heck do I take with me to the pool? What do I need? How do I find a pool? All of those things, right? So this is just a picture of some of the things we had that day. We had goggles, we had paddles that you wear on your hands. We had earplugs, nose plugs. We had the, mesh bags for our wet stuff to go in afterwards. We had yoga blocks. So here are some of the tools and toys that we brought to the water with us. We had a band to do some resistance training. So all of these things were going to happen in the pool that day, or not happen. Okay, so then she responded. She actually got in the pool. Okay, and this is how that went.
This is my first swim lesson, and I'm already doing this.
Nice, it's so good. So you went from, what were you doing before? Not even comfortable floating?
Right, not even comfortable floating to being able to do a stroke.
Elementary backstroke.
Elementary backstroke.
Awesome.
And I got there by using this method with the yoga blocks. They actually float in water, which I learned today. And you can use them to float like this.
Wow.
And then after you're comfortable, you can let go.
Nice.
And it's been an amazing experience.
Okay, so what? One lesson, right? One time, one moment. She's already all the way through to respond. Here, I tried something. Okay, I gave it a shot. All right, so then last, she's in reform. And this to me is just absolutely beautiful. The quality of the video is not that great, but hopefully you can hear it.
Hola, Ayana, it's Teresa. Thank you so much for letting me use the snorkel equipment. I enjoyed my time at the marinarium. I got to swim in the open ocean water with an assistant because my skills are still getting stronger, but I learned about ocean wave awareness and am getting better able to navigate in open water. The experience was great. I'm here in Dominican Republic, near Punta Cana, off the coast, on the, I can't tell if it's Atlantic side or not, but, we are very excited to continue to grow my swim skills and just go at my own pace and relax. I made some mistakes today, but I'll be able to correct them over time. Hope you're well, and I'll see you soon.
Okay, so you got to see then that reform, right? This idea that, okay, I can go to the Dominican Republic and do my thing. I can get in the ocean water, right? From swimming, from learning to float with the yoga blocks to, it couldn't have been not more than a couple months later that she was in the Dominican Republic doing her thing. So it's just to show that that model is, it's useful and you can use it in such a quick time, right? Reflect, reconcile, reassess, respond, reform, do it again. At my level, at the greatest level, you can continue to do that process. And so that's really what I had to share. Yeah, there's so much I want to say, but I really want to hear from you all. I really want questions, but this is the homework, right? What would New School be without homework? So I want you all to have to get the book, The Undercurrents of Power. I have a link that I want to put in the chat. So I'll do that. Make a list of aquatic activities, things you want to experience, right? That's super important. That is one of the first steps, okay? So try to do that. And then also support the artist whose work I'm using, Kalita Rawls. So this is whose beautiful art. These are oil paintings. This is good stuff to have in your house, right? To go into that piece of socialization, right? Like we swim and this is what it looks like. So that's my homework. I'm gonna drop this in the chat real quick. And I think I'll pass it over.
Yes, yes. Are we unmuted?
Mhm.
Wow.
Lord.
I was gonna say powerful. Man, look at us. Dr. Ayana creating these models, making us go back. So powerful. At this time, we're gonna go into our post lecture breakout sessions, and then we'll come back and we'll do Q&A as well as share out from our breakout rooms. So the questions,
They're in the chat. I'm putting them
Okay.
in the chat right now.
Yep, so the questions
Oh.
are,
No, but those were the first questions.
okay, let me,
Excuse me.
hold on. I am going to share my, oh, you gotta give me permission. So,
Give me a second. Post lecture questions.
yep, give us 1 second.
All right. Here they are.
So how, the post-lecture discussion, how have your personal experience with swimming influenced your relationship with water? And then in what ways can we, Black people, reintegrate aquatics in our lives? So those are the two questions, and we will broadcast them through the breakout rooms as well.
Yes.
Those are questions she posed.
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Put you all in breakout rooms, the same breakout rooms we were in before. All right.
Okay, so we're gonna join.
And actually, do you just want to stay in the main room?
Ooh, okay, let me leave this room then.
Just until everybody gets settled into a group. Ade, do you see the room?
Yes.
You can share out what you all talked about in your groups related to the question. Go ahead.
Yeah, please feel free to ask any questions or just talk about what you talked about in your group.
Oh, to Lisa, could you share?
Yes, I was just coming on. So I talked about kind of my journey with swimming in the water of, starting out, early on with being kind of scared of water, but having to do it in class, and then, being interested in it and going to the local pool, but then being pushed down in the water by the boys playing around and knucklehead stuff. So then I was scared again and like, nope, I'm not going in water. Don't even want to put my feet in. And then I talked about, when I got married, my husband's brother had died when they were like 6 and 7 because they were playing hide and seek, and he hid behind a tree and fell into the lake and died. And so that was scary too. So when we had our kids, it was an absolute must that they have to learn how to swim. So from 2, they were learning, how to swim and taking swim lessons until they just loved the water. They just absolutely loved the water. Even before we put them in lessons, we had pools and they were playing and stuff. And so they are competitive swimmers, and they've been with Miss Ayana. But my daughter, when she was 9, taught me how to do the back float and backstroke. And that was like, okay, I can do this. And I was excited. My 9-year-old has taught me what this lady that I'm paying has not taught me. Now I'm going to pay my daughter instead. And so it was really exciting and joyful. And since we've been on this COVID time, she's now 12, and I have not been, I'll say because I have not been back in